I hope you're well. As promised in last week's video, we'll put in the Mini-me MFT alike aside for a minute, and we're going to take a look. We're going to take a look at this Mini-me version from XL. This bench is available under many different brands: Vivor, Craftsman, Pro, Holtzman. This one is XL, a white label brand from my local tool shop. I paid 80 quid with next day delivery and arrived promptly, if a little battered, but otherwise it was well packaged with all the accessories in a separate box. There's a slim plastic strap handle on the rear face of the bench. This folds flat and sits between the top and bottom lips of the extrusion. No T-slots here, unfortunately, but the lips are the same size and the bench stands on edge no problem. Like the Mini-me bench, there's a sprung pin that releases the legs, and the legs have no cams or locks on the hinges, just the painted metal braces that fold out from the framework and clip over the little studs. Be aware as well that there's no locking mechanism here to prevent accidental release either. Each leg is independently height adjustable with the familiar sprung pins, and the 5 positions on each leg give a bench height adjustment from 735 millimeters, about 29 inches just under at the lowest, to 885 millimeters, 35 inches or so at the top end. Adjustable height is all you get on these legs, so be sure that you set the bench on level ground or be prepared to wedge one leg to take out any wobble. And because of the compact dimensions, note that you'll need to set the legs at their lowest position to fold them away. The bench comes with a pair of one-handed squeeze clamps, and the accessory box includes 4 squarish plastic bench dog type inserts, a couple of triangular clips, a pair of metal bench hooks, and 3 small plastic bins or cubbies. The clamp heads will just fit through the slots in the bench top, and the bars are small enough to fit into the dog holes with the clamp head removed. Regular guardrail clamps fit through just fine, and the dog holes are chamfered on the top edge to help with this. The 18mm thick bench top has a thin, what looks like melamine finish. It certainly chips like melamine, and the grid of holes on 76mm centers, yes, 3 inches, is unusual. And at first I thought that this was one for the American market, but the dog holes measure in at a hair under 20mm, 19.9 to be exact, so yeah, probably not. The usual bench dog suspects from Trend, UJK, Bench Dogs Co-UK, and my own 10-minute workshop dogs all failed the easy insertion test, and I was just about to have my first head-in-hands moment of the day when I realised that the shape of those supplied plastic bench dogs looked awfully familiar. Yes, if you wind them into the dog holes with a bit more vigour than usual, they actually act as reamers and open the dog holes up just enough to get our standard set of bench dogs in there. They are a very snug fit, but they do fit. I don't think I'd want to ream out all 46 dog holes that way, but it's good to know that you can do a couple of them in a pinch. The bench top sits flush with the top edge of the extrusion, so this clearly isn't a bench you're expected to use as a cutting surface. Instead, you can use those bench hooks clipped onto the side of the extrusion to hang a 4x2 off and use that as a cutting surface, presumably between this and that second bench that you bought. These little plastic cubbies clip over the same studs as the bench hooks. There are 3 pairs on each long side and 1 on each short side, and they're handy for storing small parts, and there's a pair of the triangular clips that can be used to join 2 benches together. There's no onboard storage for the clamps or accessories, and the bare bench weighs in at a lightweight 16 to 17 kilos or so, just as well as the strap handle is all you get to carry it by. The bench has a claimed load rating of 1,000 pounds, that's 450 kilos, getting on for 4 times that of the Mini-me bench, and I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be testing or confirming that anytime soon. Alright, so what's the likely competition for this? Well, at £80, including VAT, the only thing you'll find to compare with it directly are going to be separate tops and leg sets, an MFT top with a pair of folding plastic trestles, for example. Even the Bora Centipede small leg set alone costs as much as this entire bench, and those plastic, fantastic Kita style benches even more again. Other than that, your choices are really either to spend more, and as uncomfortable as the comparison may be for Metabo, the MWB 100 really does seem to be the next kind of price point up for a folding bench, or you put your money into a third-party MFT top and build something yourself. Let's get into the likes and the dislikes. And this is where it gets a little bit tricky because, like most people, I tend to grade on a curve. You know, I cut the cheaper stuff a little bit of slack because it's, well, cheaper and my expectations are lower. Paying more for a more premium product means that your expectations are higher, and if those expectations aren't met, then you feel disappointed or aggrieved. This may seem completely unfair, of course, but I think it's entirely relevant, and I do feel that that's a big part of the problem with the Metabo bench, and we'll come back to that in a future video. What I like the low price of the XL bench. I like the size and the weight. I even like the height. I always preferred a lower bench for install, so I don't like that it means you need to collapse the legs down to a lower setting to get to fold them away. I like the look of the bench top. The melamine finish will wipe down easily, but I find the hole spacing just weird. If you can manage a grid of holes on 76mm centers, then why not go for the standard 96mm? I like that the supplied bench dogs act as reamers, but not as much as I'd like it if the bench dog holes were the right size to start with. It's disappointing to me that the top sits flush with the extrusion, restricting the ability to cut on the surface, but it's not an impossible fix, and if you do happen to have two of these benches, then running a length of 4x2 between them is actually not a bad solution for rough dimensioning of materials, provided you have the space. No T-track in the extrusion is a bit of a bummer, but at least the faces are flat, so you can clamp against it without too much trouble, though as always you need to watch out for the fixings on the insides of the extrusion. It does restrict your choice for rail hinges, but again, how many folks would really want to add a bench dog's quad rail hinge, say, to an 80 quid bench that's clearly not intended as a cutting surface? Probably not that many. I like that the little pegs you attach the cubbies and the bench hooks onto don't extend beyond the extrusion, and I really like these little plastic cubbies, those little plastic bins. They're a great solution for stopping small parts dropping through the dog holes. And also like the little plastic triangles, the link locks they call them, that let you easily connect two or more of these benches together in a flexible way. I don't know if the hole spacing is maintained across the bench tops if you do that, and again, at this price point we can hardly whinge if it doesn't, though the little triangles do seem to be quite a tight fit. I'm curious as to how long they'll last with repeated use, especially in colder weather, and typically at this price point there's no suggestion of any spare parts availability, so if you do rely on these and one breaks, you may well be stymied. As for the overall quality, well, it's clearly built to a price, and with that price at £80 including VAT, I really don't think there's that much to moan about, provided you can manage your expectations. I don't think anybody's seriously expecting a fully functioning Festool MFT equivalent for 80 quid. And if anybody is, well, good luck with that search. But as a simple, basic folding bench, keep in the back of the van or in the back of the garage for when those odd things crop up type of bench, I think it's absolutely brilliant. Whether it's worth picking one of these up just to use as the basis for making your own bench, well, only you can decide that. I know when I was looking at making my own portable benches a few years back, the off-the-shelf folding leg sets alone that I could find were coming in way more expensive than the price of this complete bench, and that's why I ended up making my own. If these benches had been available back then I'd definitely have been using this as the starting point for a DIY build. As for this one, well, I'm going to be using it as a test bed. I've never used a reaming tool before, so I'm going to try that out and see how hard it is to maintain or preserve squareness in the dog holes, and also compare the time and effort of doing that to simply replacing the top. If you're interested in following that along as it happens, then come and join us as a 10 Minute Workshop Plus member. More details at 10minuteworkshop.com, or sign up directly at 10minuteworkshop.plus. There's a free plan available and paid subscriptions too. Or if all of that sounds like too much of a commitment, then sign yourself up to the free newsletter at 10minuteworkshop.email, and we'll keep you in the loop with a monthly catch-up of all things 10 minutes. But I'm going to call this one done for this week. Thanks so much for taking a look. Leave a comment, hit subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Right, take care.